This Chus of our learning should be a panacea. We'll start Chaf Beis Halacha Daled. It says Ivari Atamid Nitanim Mechatzi Keves Sulamata Myra. The Kayan that's taking the limbs of the carbon tamid sacrifice. He doesn't take them up to the fire in one go. He takes them up halfway, and then they stop, and then they say Kriya Shema, and then they do the rest of it. So where was it placed? So there's two versions of this Mishnah, but it says it's half of the ramp, and beneath it to the west. To the west means it's closer to the Heichal and the Kodesh Kodashim. You enter the base of English from the east. The Kodesh Kodashim is on the west, so you're like coming in from this door, that's the east. So here's the ramp. Right here is going up, right where I am. So it's on this side. The ramp was from south to north. And the Heichal was from east to west. So it was like sideways, perpendicular to the... I'm reading it with the parentheses. If it was a holiday that had Musaf, so then the Musaf one would go on the west, and then the other one would go on the east. Yeah, the west side would be holier. It was closer to the Heichal. Shel Rashi Chadashim Nitanim al Karkav Mizbeach. The sacrifice of the Kodesh Kodashim, those limbs, that would go on the Karkav. Karkav is the walkway that, at least according to one opinion, the walkway that was, when you went up the altar, there was an area where the Kohanim could walk around, but they wouldn't have to step into the fire. Yeah? So that's the... Oh, okay. I can handle that. Okay. Hashkalim v'abikurim einonegel el b'pnei abayis. Donation shkalim and the bikurim, the first fruits, is only when the base of Mikdash is there. Aval meiser dagan, but to tie the grain, meiser behema, to tie the animals, b'chayris, and the firstborn animal, which you would only be able to eat nowadays if there's a mum. What do you do with the meiser behema? That's also a sacrifice. There's a Gemara somewhere else that says that was nullified. But right here, we say that does apply. Now, there's an issue. How do you bring a sacrifice if there's no base of Mikdash? Meiser behema is a sacrifice. So you would wait for it to get a mum, but you'd still need to separate it. But that's creating problems. But whatever the case is, that our Mishnah says that it exists. Hamakdish shkalim bikurim hareza kodesh. Someone that designates, he consecrates shkalim, says this shekel, this coin that I'm giving to the base of Mikdash is holy. Bikurim, his first fruits, he consecrates it, it becomes holy. Reb Shimon says, Reb Shimon Bayachai, ha'aimer bikurim kodesh, einam kodesh. If he says the bikurim are kodesh, it doesn't become kodesh. He learns from a pasuk. It says, Tavi beis Hashem alekecha. Bikurim you should bring to the house of Hashem your God. There's no house. It doesn't exist. The whole thing doesn't exist. Ezel karkav amizbeach. What is the karkav? Yeah, Shlomi. It says, Amma bein keren lekeren makim hilach ragli kainim. It's an Amma area that went from within the corners. So you were able to walk up the ramp, and you would walk. It was small, like an indent that you could walk around. Musaf Shabbos, Musaf Rosh Chodesh Mikodim. You have two sacrifices of Musaf. Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh is on Shabbos. So which, the Musaf was a sacrifice. Which one do you do first, Shabbos or Rosh Chodesh? I would think this is an easy question. Of course you do Shabbos. No? Tader. I would think that's the answer, but it wasn't so simple. Rabbi Yirmiyah Savar Meimar, Rabbi Yirmiyah thought to say, or holds to say, Musaf Shabbos, Musaf Rosh Chodesh Kaidman. Rosh Chodesh comes first. I guess it's holier. Chayli de Rabbi Yirmiyah min Ada, the strength of Rabbi Yirmiyah comes from the following. Now, where does he get his support? Shiru shel Shabbos v'shir shel Rosh Chodesh, because the song of Shabbos and the song of Rosh Chodesh, the Levium would sing, the Mamadas, they would sing songs. So, which song would they sing first? There was a special song for Shabbos, special for Rosh Chodesh. It says Shir shel Rosh Chodesh Kaidem. They sang the song of Rosh Chodesh first. For us, this would mean, I would say Baruch Nafshi before the Shir Shel Yom. So what is this? Oh, you say the Shir Shel Rosh Chodesh first. So if that's the case, then the Musaf was brought first. Yeah, I think the Gemara tells us what exactly it was. Amar Rabbi Yaisa, Shani Taman. Over there, it's different. Over there, they wanted everyone to know that it's Rosh Chodesh, because all the calculations were dependent on that. People didn't have printed calendars, and they needed to know it's Rosh Chodesh, so they would make an announcement, and the announcement would be as well via the song that they sang. So they wanted to catch everyone's attention. They did that song first. Ketzad, oh, yeah, the Taklim Charitan says that this version of the Gemara is corrupt, and I don't even have to explain it. That's what he says. I'll read it anyway. Ketzad hayaisa sheikhet must be Shabbos from Rosh Chodesh. I don't know what's going on, but he says that how would they do this? They would shech the Musaf of Shabbos, and they would say the song of Rosh Chodesh. He says this is clearly a corrupt mistake in the text. Okay, Baram Hacha must be Shabbos, must be Rosh Chodesh, must be Shabbos Kaidem. However, not like Rabbi Yirmiyah. When it comes to the Musaf, you would do the Musaf of Shabbos first, and then Rosh Chodesh. Why? Al Sheim Kol Tada Mechavere Kaidem Es Chavere, because Tada V'Shein Tada Kaidem. Whatever's more frequent, you always do first. The interesting thing that we say Bari Priya Gafen, and then we say Kiddush, right? So the Bari Priya Gafen is more, comes first, right? That's Machlekes Beisil and Beishamar. We had it in Psachim, the brachas. Problem is, the Kiddush is the Araisa, and the Bari Priya Gafen is the Rabbanan. There's a Machlekes here, the Shagasarya and Kiddush Friday night. I say Bari Priya Gafen, and then I say Baruch Hashem. The same thing for Abdallah, right? So if Kiddush is deraisa, this is a derabanan, then that would mean Tadar v'Shein Tadar applies even when one is a derabanan and one is a deraisa. The brachas, I assume, and before you eat, are derabanan. However, there's a way out. The way out is that we already said Kiddush and Shul by saying Shemoneh Esrei. We also said the same bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadosh Shabbos. If that's the case, then they're both derabanan, so it's no problem. The only question that you're left with is, what about the women? So if you hold that women, when they get their wine, they say Bari Priya Gafen before they drink, Chabad doesn't do that. So then they heard Kiddush, and then they said Bari Priya Gafen. Because did they secretly say their own Bari Priya Gafen before they drink? Yeah, right? That's the question. Did they? In Chabad, we don't do that. No, not out to Hepsik. Were you Yaitza the Bari Priya Gafen with the? In Chabad by Hamaitzi, the women say their own Hamaitzi. Even though the Lechem Mishnah, you said the bracha, when you pass it, then they say their own Hamaitzi. Anyway, it would work if the women's Bari Priya Gafen that is coming after it. And it's an interesting thing. Okay. Shekalim Bikurim Chulu. We said that if someone designates Shekalim and Bikurim, or when does it apply? We said that it applies only b'fnei abayas. And Reb Shimon came along. Oh, if someone is makdish Shekalim and Bikurim, so it becomes Kaidesh. Reb Shimon says no. Reb Shimon says Bikurim are not Kaidesh, because it says clearly L'fnei Hashem Alekecha, and there's no Beis HaMikdash there. Okay, so Hashkalim Kajul. Notice what Reb Shimon did not say. He didn't say that the Shkalim are not Kaidish. He only said Bikurim are not Kaidish. That sounds like Shekalim are Kaidish. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Mishum Reb Shimon Bein Elu like Yidshu. Shimon ben Yehuda says name Reb Shimon, no. Both of them are not Kaidish. Why do you just say that one? I don't know. Tanya was taught. Ger bizman hazeh tzarich lavi kiner revius kesef. A convert has to bring a carbon. The problem is that there's no basic mikdash. So how does he convert? He didn't bring a carbon. So the Gemara says he has to designate money. How much? He has to bring a bird. So how much money does he designate? Well, a quarter of a dinar, quarter of a silver coin would satisfy that. That would cover that. So Amar Reb Shimon, Bitlo Reb Yochanan ben Zakkai b'nei Atakala. Reb Yochanan ben Zakkai said, "Don't do this." He was mevatel this. He said, "Look, we're going to have holy, consecrated money floating around for 2,000 years." They probably thought Mashiach would come, not in 2,000 years, but even for 5 years, for 2 years, for a day. We don't want the money hanging around. So don't designate any money for sacrifices. Is saying that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, "Don't do this." Yeah. Bitler Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Mahu mipnei atakala. What does it mean mipnei atakala? There's stumbling. We don't consecrate, we don't evaluate, we don't make chayrims, and we don't collect. That's a little strange. No, is that the correct version? We do Chumas and Maisus. Huh? The grass is taken out. You should take over. And if he was makdish, or he did one of these things, or he lifted up things to make them holy. So you have to burn the garment that you consecrated. The animal I guess it means you let it get a mum. Kate said, well, how do you do that? You close the door, and the money you throw into the sea, over there it will disintegrate from the salt. If someone actually goes ahead and is makdish when he wasn't supposed to, it sounds like if Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, "Don't do it," it sounds like if you do it, it's going to be a problem. It sounds like it's actually going to be effective. Don't do it. That means that if you did do it, it's probably going to be effective. That's why he's telling you not to. In other words, anyway, it's not responsible. It's not like you're worried about all the money going on that's public. But wait 1 second, there's no exemption. Yeah. So by Bikurim, Reb Shimon Shita was there's no Beis Hamikdash. The whole thing doesn't apply. You said something that doesn't exist. However, what about Shekalim? Or what about other things that you're consecrating? What happens then? Or what about Avar V'Hikdish? We're learning it. It sounds like it by his carbon. Are we talking about the convert's carbon? He did what? Yeah, Avar V'Hikdish, the convert's carbon. The convert said, "I need to prepare for my carbon," and he designates the money. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, "Don't do that." So the Gemara says, "Oh, based on that, probably it would take effect." Avram Nassan, you want to take over from here? You take over. Rabbi Yehuda on the Torah. You'll finish the Masechta. Come speak on the Zoom. Come sit over here.
So, Avar V'Hikdish, the person who's in the conversion process, he fled a certain amount of money which was effectively the cost of the carbon. Minma. So what is the din? The Reb Shimon, we learned before that Reb Shimon explained Bitla, that it's nullified. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai explained But no, if I may have to call it, because the fact that we're concerned that maybe this money is going to be left lying around, and then it's going to get mixed in with regular money, and you won't need you won't be able to use either of the monies. Okay, hold on a second. Amra, Amra, if Avad Vikitcha, the Hikdishu Kitchen. So therefore, from here we see that since we're concerned about this hektish problem, therefore we understand therefore that B'diavad, if he did assign certain monies for hektish, then yes, it is chal. Yehuda on Sudrayu. By Kamei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda, this Rabbi Yehuda came before Rabbi Yossi. Achas At Amar. Now he's going to ask a question from what seems like maybe a question between the two different cases we have here. We're discussing two cases, Shekalim and the case with the individual ger who is put away money for his carpet for the gerus. So it seems like in the case of Shekalim it's not chal, and in the case of the gerus it is chal. So at Amar Kitchu, Vahakat Amar like Kitchu. In one of these cases you said, by the case of Shekalim, you said it was not the Kedusha is not chal. And in the case of the ger, seemingly it implies that if he did it, it is chal at its hektish. Amalei. So he answered him, Taman lekach ein makdishin lechatchila. Regarding the case of the Shekalim, you can't be makdish lechatchila. Mitzvah lahakrit mitruma chadasha. Because as we learned earlier in a number of blot ago, that when it comes to Shekalim, it has to be brought from the new shekel. So I think it's Yeshena. And these Shekalim that you're putting aside now are going to be old Shekalim. You're putting aside Shekalim now for some time in the future, and at that time you are required to use the new shekel, or I think it may also be referring to the Bikurim. But you can't. These Shekalim aren't valid for some time in the future. But regarding the case of the ger doesn't have a requirement to use chadash. The ger can use any carbon that he wants to bring. So for him, it's not a problem. What are you going to say? That this carbon that the ger is bringing is old. Regarding his carbon that he wants to bring shalager, and it's not a chadasha. He doesn't need new. Beam hektish kaidish, and therefore, if the ger is going to designate certain monies for future carbon, then it's chal. So as it relates to the shekalim, it can't be chal because the shekalim is going to need new. As it relates to the ger, it could be chal because the ger doesn't necessarily need new. He can bring whatever he set aside. So maybe the Gemara asks the question that who says that it's going to be new, because the whole concept of new doesn't even take place. The new fiscal year, quote unquote, in the times of the Mishkan doesn't take place yet, or the time of Beis Hamikdash doesn't take place yet. There's no Beis Hamikdash right now. So maybe maybe he'll put the shekalim aside now, and he will use them when the Beis Hamikdash is built again. The new fiscal year doesn't start until the new Beis Hamikdash is built. So the Gemara is concerned he can't do that because Shema Yivna Bayis Habayis Karishayna. Could be that the third Beis Hamikdash will be built like the original Beis Hamikdash, which I think is referring to the Mishkan, which was built on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the new fiscal year. So therefore, even if you were makdish it on, I guess, Chav Tes Adar, the new fiscal year starts the day the Beis Hamikdash is built. Truma Harlishka Mina Chadasha Vizmana Becha Benissa. Okay, I just explained it before I read it. And therefore, the Truma Salishka will need to come from the new coins or the new produce that was consecrated after the first day of the sun. But again, as it relates to the ger, the ger doesn't have this concern. The ger can bring from any produce or any nedava that he wants to give, so he doesn't have that problem. Rav Hamnuna, Rav Ada bar Ava b'shem Rav. Rav Hamnuna, Rav Ada in the name of said in the name of Rav that at the end of the day, halacha is Rav Shimon. Halacha in this Gemara is like Rav Shimon. I don't know. Parak kol haraykin slika lo nesech l'shka. All right.
Shkoyach.
They were waiting for the other Yomas to arrive. Okay, Shekayach, let's go to the beginning of Yoma. So the Mishnah says, Shivas Yamim, Kedim Yom Kippurim, 7 days before Yom Kippur, Mafrisin Kohen Gadol b'Beisei Lishkas B'Hedgen. The Kohen Gadol is separated from his house, from his wife. 7 days, and he goes to this room, the Lishkas B'Hedgen. The Gemara will explain how it got the name. What are they concerned about? Well, his wife could be tamei by unknowing, and he'll find out later. So they don't want, if he's together with his wife and his wife is tamei, he'll be saying tamei as a nida's tamei. Boyal nida gets a tam of a nida, and he'll end up being tamei, and he has to do the service. So they separate him from his wife. Maskinin like kayan achetachtav, and they designate another kayan instead of him. By psul, maybe some invalidity will appear. Okay, so notice that they don't separate this other kayan; they just designate. Yeah, or else that would be doing too much, too many precautions. So okay, Rabbi Yehuda says, the truth is that the Kohen Gadol needs to be married. So you're taking precautions to make sure that he doesn't become tamei. But let's say something happens to his wife. Shema tamas ishta, maybe his wife will pass away. Chas v'shalom. Shenemar v'chiper ba'devad beisai. He has to be married because he has to bring atonement for himself and for his household, meaning his wife. Beisai zu ishtai, that's his wife. Amrulai, they said to Rabbi Yehuda, this is getting out of hand. Im kain ein l'davar seif. If you're going to start to take precautions like that, you see, the Tanakama was not concerned about the Kohen Gadol passing away. They were concerned about the Kohen Gadol become tamei. If his wife becomes tamei, he's still married to her. There's no problem. If once he's going to throw into this that we're concerned that, let's say the person dies, chas v'shalom, so then that's an endless issue. Yeah, but the designation wasn't because he may die. That wasn't the precaution. The designation, the precaution was because maybe he'll become tamei. But now to start to be concerned that maybe his wife is gonna chas v'shalom. So yeah. I'm sorry, Daniel.
Isn't this one of the miracles that never happened? That the Kohen Gadol never became tamei?
Oh yeah, Le'era carry the Kohen Gadol. Yeah, I saw a nice shot. I'm sorry.
Isn't there a chazaka there that
No, that was a miracle. Or maybe if you take all the precautions. I saw a nice shot from Rebbe Margolius. We mentioned him yesterday. He says that the miracle that the Kohen Gadol never became tamei was because it was such a holy event. And he brings proofs that when someone experiences a very holy experience, it's beyond his pay grade. So he becomes tamei. So he says a nice shot that Yaakov Avinu appears to Yosef when Potiphar is trying to seduce him. It says that he became tummy then, so not because of Potiphar. He became tummy because his father appeared to him, and that was such a holy, that he couldn't handle it. He becomes tummy. The Kohen Gadol goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. You would think he would become tummy. The miracle is he didn't. Yeah, that's a Rav Magalias. He said this. It's so awesome. Yeah, I saw this in his commentary on Sefer Chassidim. Anyway, he brings some other Gemaras that he explains with this. Kol ha'anoshim mesim zavim. Whenever someone passes away, he passes away tamei. He may pass away as a zav. That's because he sees the angel. So that causes the. Okay. Tanan Hassam was taught over there, and where is this? In Mishnah in Para. Shivas Yamim Kaidim Streifas Para, Yamafishin Kaina Seifas upon me base, Lishka shall gabe shall pnei habira, Tzvainim Mizracha, Lishka space 7, Haisa Nikras, Valaminakashma Lishka space 7, Shkomasa Kli Glalim Kliavanim Kliadama. We have a Mishnah that parallels our Mishnah. The Kohen Gadol is separated 7 days from his house before Yom Kippur. The Kohen that's going to do the Paraduma separates from his house 7 days before he does the Paraduma. Now, there's some other details here. The Kohen that's going to burn the Paraduma, and it doesn't say he goes to Lishkas Parhedron, it says he goes to a room which is on the Bira, to the northeast, and it was called Lishkas Beis Evan, the stone room. Why was it called the stone room? There were a lot of rooms in the Beis Hamikdash that were made out of stone. The floor was stone. Why was this called the stone room? It says because all the utensils there were made either from dung, they would make it out of dung, which is okay, or it was made out of stone, or it was made out of clay adama, which is a type of clay that's not heated in a kiln. It was just like a mud dried in the sun. Why would they do this? Because these types of utensils, these instruments would not become tamei. And we take these extra precautions. I'm not sure. It must have been that it was dried to the extent that it wasn't something that was considered like bone china. Yeah. As long as I don't know about it, I don't think about it. But when you start to think about, this is bone china. Oh. No. Okay. My timer. Why did they do all of this? Kivan the Tvol Kosher Bepara. Really, the person, the V'asaf Ishtar Es Eparapara. The pure man will gather the ashes of the para. What does it mean, the pure man? So the sages said that the pure man means someone that went to the mikveh, but he doesn't need to wait for nightfall. Remember, like the first Mishnah in Brachas, he goes to the mikveh, he has to wait for nightfall to eat the truma. He doesn't need to wait for nightfall. The Tzedukim said that he has to wait for nightfall. So theoretically, it would be okay to follow the Tzedukim because they're even more strict. You wait for nightfall and it's even more pure. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to give them any credence. So, they would actually make him tamei. The kohen that's going to do the service, they would make him tamei. It's machlekes how tamei they would make him. The Taisa says they just touched him. Other commentaries say that they actually touched him to a sheret. He can't become tamei mace. That would be a prohibition. But they would touch him to a sheret or something. And then they would put him in the mikveh. And why would they do this? To take out from the thoughts of the Tzedukim, from their opinion, okay, they said that you have to wait for nightfall, the Tzedukim. We didn't want to do that, so we take the, this is like Chabad eating before davening. I know they're strict, they don't eat before davening, but we know we have to eat before that. So, Bedafka, we make the Kayan Tameh and then put him in the mikveh. And before nightfall, we have him do the service. Doesn't wait till after nightfall. Just because it's Tzaddukim say that you have to wait, we don't do that. However, because we're doing this lenient, we're being more lenient, so we don't want people to think that this is actually something that you could take lightly. So in all other areas of this, we're like crazy strict. So all the utensils that are used are utensils that are not susceptible to tumah. So therefore, tekina la'irabana, kina la'irabana kli glalim, kli avanim, kli adama, d'leila kablu tumah, so that they shouldn't become susceptible to tumah. Kehechid d'leila zalzabas, so we shouldn't take it lightly. Yeah. I don't know about that. Okay. So let me clarify. There's a Magen Avram that's concerned about kashering from milchiks to fleishiks. He doesn't want to do that because he says you might forget. If you're going to always kasher back and forth, you're going to forget which one it was. Was this milchiks? Was this fleishik? So there's a solution to avoid the Magen Avram, and that is you make a tray, and then you kasher. You're not kashering from milchiks to fleishiks. It was made tray. That's a way of avoiding the Magen Avram. That's what you're coming up with. But no, yeah. So here we're not dealing with that sort of kashering. Here we're dealing with impurity. So we make him tamei. Then we put him in the mikveh, and now he's tar. But there's another level of tumah that he reaches at nightfall. We hold that he doesn't have to wait for that level, the level of tara that he reaches at night. On the same day. Yeah, it just goes to the mikveh. If it's a sheretz. Yeah. Okay, we said that the Kohen Gadol goes to the Lishkas Parhedrin. The Kohen that does the, before Yom Kippur, the Kohen that does the Paraduma goes to the room on the Tzvayna Mizracha. Maishna Tzvayna Mizracha, why are we putting him in that room on the northeast of the Bira? Even the Chatas, because the Paraduma, the red heifer, right, it's getting burnt and it's not sacrificed in the temple. They take it over to the Mount of Olives, and it's sacrificed and burnt over there. But we want him to know that it's still considered a chatas. It's called chatas in the Torah. So we put him on the northeast because the north is where the chatas is done, and the east is considered holy in front of the sanctuary. So since it's chatas, the chatas tunitz fina, the chatas has to be offered on the north. And none of this is taking place. It's not taking the paradum is not being offered on the north. It's being offered at. I think it's the ceremony is being done outside the temple, but we still put him in that area. He should always keep in mind of what's going on here. That this is a chatas. So we put him on the north. It should be opposite the tent. That it should be recognizable the significance of what he's going to do. So we put him in that. We give him that suite, the northeast suite in the Bira, so that he should know this is the presidential suite. My Bira, what does it mean Bira? So it's machlekes Bira. Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana Rabbi Yechanan Makam Eisa Bar Abayis Bira Shmai. Rabbi Yechanan says that it's a special area of the Harabayas. It's called Bira. Rish Lakish Amar Kol HaMikdash Kula Kara Bira. No, the whole temple is called Bira. It's not a specific place. Bira means the palace, right? So the whole place is called the palace. Shnemar Bira Asher Chinaisi. It says in Divrei Yamim, I guess regarding Shlomo building the Beis HaMikdash, the palace that I prepared, that I built. We know immediately where do we know that we have to separate the Kohen Gadol before Yom Kippur, and that we have to separate the Kohen that's going to burn the Paraduma, that you have to separate him 7 days before. Where do we see this in the Torah? Amar Rabbi Yumi Bar Chilki, Amar Rabbi Machasya Baridi, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Amar Kra. quote a pasuk, last week's parsha. We separated the Aaron and his son 7 days during the inauguration. Before Rosh Chodesh Nisan, they had to separate, and they stayed in the tent of meeting for 7 days. The pasuk says, as you did this day, Hashem commanded you for an atonement for you, to do for an atonement for you. Now, that pasuk is telling me something more than just what it said about the inauguration. To do for an atonement for you, the Gemara says, oh, it's telling me about future things as well. Lasis, to do, Elomaisi para. That's to do the paraduma. L'chaper, very nice. L'chaper as an atonement. Elomaisi Yom Kippurim. Sound good, no? That's as an atonement. That's Yom Kippur is the atonement. The pasuk is not only talking about the Chaim that has to do the paradum, has to separate 7 days. As we're learning from the inauguration that took place before Rosh Chodesh Nisan in the desert, that they separated the Chaim 7 days to two other things: the paraduma, and that the Chaim that burns the paraduma has to separate, and the Chaim Gadol has to separate before Yom Kippur. That pasuk is teaching me two things. I know it's not teaching me just the paraduma, because it says lechaper, to atone. Can't be the paraduma. Lechaper ksiv, paralabas kapari. That wasn't an atonement offering. That was a purification process. But maybe the whole pasuk is referring to Yom Kippur. Amri, the Gemara says, Yalef tziva tziva. We're going to learn from Gzeir Shava. Gzeir Shava means a verbal analogy. It says one word here, it says the same word somewhere else, and it tells us that association means that's what it's teaching. Ksiv hacha, over here it says Tziv Hashem lases. You notice the pasuk that we quoted from last week's parsha. It says, as you did today, Hashem commanded to do. Tziva, Hashem commanded to do. Ksiv hasam, over there it says in Parshas Chukas, when it talks about the paraduma, Zeis Chukas atera Tziva Hashem leimar. It says the word Tziva. So I know that it's not just talking about Yom Kippur, it's also talking about the paraduma. And that's where we're learning that the separation of 7 days. Malahalan para, just like over there, paraduma. Afkan, also by the pasuk, by the inauguration, was talking about the para. Makan prisha, just like by the inauguration, they separated the kayan. Aflahalan prisha, also by the paraduma, they separated the kayan 7 days in preparation. The Gemara asks, Veimatziv, yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good question. So, I would like to say, Ibn Naftali is asking that it says tziva hundreds of times in Tanakh. Now, that could be associated with absolutely anything. Hashem commanded, right? So, I would like to say that, I guess, that they knew this is what it meant. We're just using a Gzeir Shava to support it. Because the information was intact, and the Gzeir Shava is coming as a support for what they knew from tradition. It was already a Messiah. That's how, that's easier for me to, otherwise I'd have to rule out every one of should be time consuming. The aim of the Gemara asks right away, Tziva the Yom Kippurim. Maybe it says Tziva by Yom Kippur. And as we were suggesting that maybe the Kohen Gadol needs to be separated 7 days, and that's it. Just the Kohen Gadol before Yom Kippur needs to be separated. Not the Kohen by the Paraduma. Not that. That's what we were suggesting. So we said, no, it says Tziva by the Paraduma. It says Tziva by the inauguration. He has to be separated. But it says Tziva by Yom Kippur. Maybe it's only referring to the Kohen Gadol before Yom Kippur. Okay, that pasuk over there is in Parshas Achrei Mos. It describes what the Kohen Gadol is supposed to do on Yom Kippur. Then it says that they did as Hashem commanded Moshe. We didn't actually do it then because the command was not on Yom Kippur. But it means that when Yom Kippur came, he did it. So it says by Yom Kippur Tziva. Gemara says, "Done in tziva delifnei asiya, mitziva delifnei asiya, ve'in done in tziva delachar asiya, mitziva delifnei asiya." By the inauguration, it says Hashem commanded. As Hashem commanded you today. By the Paraduma, it says, "This is the law that Hashem commands." By Yom Kippur, it says, "He did as Hashem commanded." That's not Hashem's commanding. That's as Hashem commanded. That's after the act. He did as Hashem commanded. That's a different sort of, that's a different connotation. He did as Hashem commanded. That doesn't correspond to Hashem commanded you to do. The Gemara asks, let's say that every time a Chaim brings a korban, he has to separate for 7 days. On the day that he commanded the Jewish people. It says tziva. Tziva. That tells me separation. The Gemara says, "Done in tziva mitziva, vein done in tzavasi mitziva." It says, it says that I have to look for the exact vowels in the exact conjugation of the word. Here it says tzavasi. What was the word? The Yom Tzavasi. Over there, it says Tziva. So I learned Tziva from Tziva, not Tzavasi from Tziva. The Gemara says, "My nafkamina, why are you getting so particular?" We have a Gemara that says that you don't have to be so particular. It says, "Vatana debei Rabbi Shmuel v'shava kayin uva kayin." This is this week's parsha. The Kayan comes, the Kayan returns, and it says over there, Zui Shiva Zui Bia. That's exactly the same point, that when the Kayan comes to close off the house, the Kayan comes to examine the house. We learn the same thing, that we learn one from the other, even though the word, one is Vishav and one is Uva. And it's not the same word, but the content is the same. The Kayan is coming to check the house. So you see, you can do a Gzer Shavi even though the word is not the same, as long as the content is the same. That's the main thing. The Gemara says, "Hani mili hechad leka de damila, aval hechad eka de damila, mi de damila yalfinan." That's only if you don't have anything else to compare it to. So we say the content is the same thing. But over here, you're telling me that I should learn tziva to tzavasai. I have so many tzivas. I'm not going to take it to something that doesn't match perfectly. If I have something that matches perfectly, I put it to what matches perfectly. What does it match perfectly to? To the paraduma. That means that the paraduma is learned from the inauguration that they have to separate 7 days. Okay, let's leave it over here. After davening, we'll have the hajjan and the siyum. Shekayach, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Excellent.
Shekalim from South Africa.
Oh no, really? I didn't realize. Chaim's in South Africa. Did you know that?
Yeah. Only b'simchas. Only b'simchas.
Simchas, all the best.
Chodesh
Thank you.
tov. Only b'simchas.
Okay.
Only b'simchas.
Stop.
Torah tova.
Stop. Beautiful. Eliezer, you want to come? You're too busy. Come for breakfast. There's a breakfast there. Eliezer. Yeah, I don't hear you clearly. It's like static.
Okay.
Oh, Eliezer, you're there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, why don't you come? Come for the breakfast.
Okay, I'll check it out. Okay.
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 Okay, bye. Good day. It's after davening, of course. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Good day.